Hello, everybody. Welcome to my stream. How's everyone doing?
Not too bad. How are you, George?
Yeah, all good, man.
Good,
Off to a
good.
good start.
Yeah, that's what we like to hear.
Yeah. So, you know, been keeping well.
Yeah. Just busy again, like the same as last week, really. Just college
Yeah.
again and stuff.
Yeah.
Got to keep up
I've
with
only,
it.
I've only just about got my stuff done now, so I shouldn't have anything else to do.
Good.
Yeah.
It's always good when you haven't got tasks, due.
Yeah, no, it's good. Once you finish everything, that's it for Nito.
Yeah, that's what you want.
Yeah. What's that?
That's what you want.
Yes, that's right.
You don't want the stress. It's not worth
No,
it.
no, it's not worth it, man. Never worth it.
Yeah.
Seeing if there's anyone else coming on. I have 4 viewers already.
Good.
Yeah, I'm hoping Goose is on this year.
Yeah. I hope it is, but I don't know whether it will be.
In my opinion, I would rather have it as like a gated system. That's what I was
Yeah.
trying to say on one of the live streams before. Literally, just have like a gate. Have 2 people. Well, put 1 or 2 people. I don't know. Maybe 2, preferably. And then just have like someone on one side and someone on the other side of the gate. So like there could be entrance 1 and 2 each side. And they have clickers. So if there's too many people in, they shut it off for a bit until they know. But then I don't know how that would work because there would have to be another few. There'd be 4 people in total, 4 corners.
Yeah. And it's tricky with how many different entrances there is to Goose.
Yeah,
to sit there and gate all off around every single way to get in. You've then got to think about the cost of all the fencing,
That's true. I mean, they do the fencing for the showman's caravan, so I don't see why they shouldn't be able to do it for the public. Like that would be all right.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Luke Smith has just put that he sent you a friend request on Facebook. I'm guessing that's so you can send him the link later. I don't know.
Yes, he has actually sent me a friend request. I'll accept that now.
But yeah, it's one of them. I'd like it to be on, and I'd like the model show to be on, but it's whether it. I'd rather people be safe.
Yeah, sure. Yes, that's for sure.
And you've got to think about as well, like how many showmen, and I've said this before in other live streams, how many showmen are going to be willing to put potentially their family at risk because they have thousands of people going through Goose Fair, and they're in contact with them. So how many showmen are going to risk, putting their family at risk, if that makes sense?
I mean, if it was to go ahead, it probably would be the bigger showmen that probably go more than the smaller showmen,
Yeah.
Because the smaller businesses, they don't want to risk it. So, can I join when the panel today? I think he means that he wants to join the panel in a second. We'll be inviting him in a second. Just give me.
Yeah, sounds good.
Give me a moment.
But yeah, it's just one of them, isn't it? It's everyone would want a fair.
Yeah.
But then you've got to also think how many of the members of the public are going to go. And to be honest, I'd rather see if little fairs can open, and not big fairs. I'd rather see more family fairs around than a big fair.
Definitely, man. That's definitely what I'd say. It's the smaller fairs that want to be open first, I'd say.
Yeah, and it's then, like, yeah. I'm not saying all showmen, but some showmen that don't have like finances to pay and everything. Fair enough, all showmen's got their insurance and stuff, but them showmen that aren't paying their rides off are more likely to have savings than the showmen that don't have having finance to pay, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally.
So if them showmen that are paying finance, would they potentially struggle to be able to raise the funds to go and sit on Goose Fair, which potentially could not bring any money in? you know, it's a tricky one, and I can see where the showmen are coming from, and some showmen won't go out until it is safe and, you know, enough to do so. But that's good with them family fairs because they're able to like build up money then for the big fairs next year if they can open.
Right, I sent Luke a link to get in, so
Hi Tony.
he should be able to get in.
Nice. Hello Daz.
Hello Daz. Get Luke on. Yes, we are getting him on. Don't you worry.
But yeah, it's one of them. It's a tricky one, you know.
I mean, if you want to come on as well, Daz, I will send you a link if you need it. Or that's if you want to come on now. And sure, I'll get you on. No problemo.
Yeah, it's a tricky one. I'd love to see the big fairs open, but I genuinely don't think there's a chance.
There isn't a chance. And I'm really sad to see that Space Ruler that normally goes, that went.
Yeah.
Top Buzz 2, that was a good one. There's like a couple of, but the one I used to like the most, like watching it, because it was so interesting, because it was so much that's different to all the other rides. That was the Big Ben, like drop tower. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
That was the really good. That was the really good drop tower back in the day. But then, obviously, they must have. I don't even know where that went.
No, I'm not sure.
I think it went. I wouldn't have thought it went to France because I know there's a drop tower in France called Countdown, but I'm not 100% sure if that is in France or if it's. I have no clue why they sold it, but it was good because that used to come down to one of my local fairs before Thunderworld. It was good, and then what happened was they had that, and then another year or two later they actually replaced it with something called Tango.
That
was the next best thing until then they sold it for an extreme booster. The one that Bertie Hollins used to have.
Yeah.
I think they have a Waltzer now. Dave visited somewhere. I see. Yeah.
Yeah, that's where a lot of the rides are going at the minute, unfortunately. A lot of the good ones.
Wallace's Extreme, that was 2 years on. Like 2 years ago that he had it, and then now he's sold it. Just like that. But then I remember hearing that they wanted to do something different. I think there's like a Ferris wheel or something.
Yeah.
So Luke Smith said I'm trying to get on. Okay, mate.
Yeah, Daz is working. I hope it's not too hard work, Daz. I know the weather's it's quite good where I am. I don't know where it is for you.
Yeah. It's quite warm out, actually.
It's
unusual.
Strange because it looked quite grey earlier around where I live. Yeah, it's strange.
The UK has some strange weather patterns. I can tell you that now.
Global warming for you.
Yeah, wow. It will happen.
Yeah. You can't stop it, do you know?
Definitely. I mean, one of the comments Dave just put earlier, a few minutes ago, get George on. I'm ready on, mate.
Oh, man.
Oh, well.
But yeah, so how's everyone's day been in the chat? Let us know in the comments.
Let us know. Definitely.
What month is Hoppings meant to take place? Is it June or July?
It's June.
Yeah, it's already been cancelled.
I reckon if it was July, sorry to interrupt you then.
Yeah,
if it was July, it probably would go ahead. But it's in June.
Yeah.
Last year was torture with the heat. Too hot.
Yeah, that's not a bad thing for the showman though.
Well, it seemed kind of bad because they shut early. There was meant to be like, don't they normally go ahead from like daylight, which is like from 1 to I think 12, 1 o'clock. Some open really
Yeah.
early, which is 12 o'clock, and then they end up then closing then at night. But last year I seen them close in the evening. It's so weird. Like, have they changed the times or something?
I guess if I don't know, it's weird. I guess if it was busy and they've made the money, I guess they could get away with shutting early, you know. But I doubt that's the reason for it.
I reckon they must have changed the times because I remember I went with my dad, like not last year, the year before. I think it's the year before or the year before that. I can't remember. I think I've been there a couple of years now.
Yeah.
And of course, with the amount of times I went, one year it opened quite late. I think, like. But then I reckon it was because I went during the weekdays, and during the weekdays they close early, so that might be why.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Bit bit confusing, but I soon get there.
As I said, it's red hot there. It's not good.
Nah, it's not good.
At least it's not chucking it down.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, I got something to surprise you guys. I seen on Breakdance UK's Facebook page that of the control panel of them testing it too. If you want to see.
Yeah, I think I've seen that. I've seen it. May as well show the stream.
Share my entire screen. Why not? Okay, so share. There we go. If we go to here, oh, that's the sign. There it is.
Yeah. I mean, it's not running too slow.
No, it looks like it's running a lot quicker now.
Yeah. Still got more in it though, hasn't she?
Yeah. It definitely will be. I'm hoping it will be soon that they open then, because if they're testing it, then it could be hopes that after the government open because they're supposedly opening the outdoor markets, and they should be opening the outdoor markets and some other things, I think.
Yeah, I saw that outdoor markets. Yeah. I think they said in June, didn't they? They said sometime in June. Which it is looking positive, but it's just, are we going too quick? Because if we go too quick, you risk another lockdown, you know?
Yeah, but that won't happen, I think. I can tell you now, with the amount of things that's happening at the moment, I reckon one of them's going to be like that. It'll just happen again. But hopefully it doesn't happen again.
Mind you, they're saying that. I saw that Germany, when they came out of lockdown, somewhat the cases, shot back up.
Yeah.
And they shot back up, and that caused.
Yeah, Luke's here.
Hi, Luke.
I know. It can't happen again. Oh, there you go. He's here.
The bad echo.
Mind you, they're saying. But there's a bad echo there.
The cases, shot back up.
Yeah.
They shot back up, and that caused. But yeah,
hello. Hello.
Hi.
Hello. Yeah, there's a really bad echo.
Hello.
Corley.
I don't know if he can hear us.
No, I don't think he
I
can.
have got an echo. I don't know. Just try again.
Okay, maybe try again, Luke, if you have a computer or something to go on to. Maybe
plug some headphones in, maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I was saying, the cases skyrocketed in Germany again. But touch wood, they haven't gone back into lockdown. they haven't reinforced that lockdown, and potentially we could see the UK do that.
Yeah.
But then it's just one of them. No one knows how it's going to go if you come out of lockdown or not. Even the scientists don't know with it being a new virus. It's just one of them.
Yeah, it's just one of those days, man. It'll, yeah. I mean, there's meant to be a theme park in Germany that's meant to be opening by about, I think, the 29th of May. Why am I saying March? May, which is this Friday coming up.
Yeah. Have you seen as well the Orlando Starflyer has reopened with precautions?
Oh, have they? I don't know.
I saw that. One of my friends shared it. I'm sure it said reopening or reopened.
Reopening or reopened by, so long. Luke's back on, but I don't really know if he had, if he was still gonna get the echoes. So, yeah, sorry, Luke. It was just really bad echoing and the.
No, do you want to try it once more? See if it's sorted it.
Like, I was gonna say if you had a computer somewhere and then have one with like a webcam, that's easy to do because, yeah. No, you're right, Mac. Yet and fun spot. I think he means yes and fun spot. Fun spot's opened as well. Then, by the sounds of things.
Yeah. It's like what I keep saying. I'd love to see fairs reopen, but I'd like people to stay safe.
Yeah, definitely.
And it's like what Daz and all them have been saying. Expect not to have a fun fair this year, and then if there is one, it's a bonus.
Yeah, it would be a bonus. But
that's what I'm doing. To be fair, now. So I'm kind of hoping, like from like the model show sides, if Goose Fair can't go ahead, could there potentially still be a model show? It's obviously it's not as big, it's nowhere near as big as a fair, and it's not a massive gathering, and there's ways to socially distance in there, only let a few people in, have markers on the floor, I just think it'd be
to tell them where to.
Yeah, and it'd be a nice way for people to still have that, because I know a lot of people of the public like that, they enjoy the Goose Fair coming around every year.
Definitely.
So it would be nice to see something still put on, even if the fair doesn't happen. Yeah.
They just have a smaller fair on there, like they normally have the bonfire. The bonfire night could be going ahead instead then, if the Goose doesn't.
Yeah.
But then again, thousands join in on that fair when the bonfire night happens.
It's not a bad thing for the showman.
No, it's not bad. I went there last year and saw George Lux's rotor.
Yeah.
Did you go there this last year? I don't
No,
know.
I only went to Goose. I saw some videos though.
Yeah.
What was
the fair in the bonfire night fair? It was really good. I'd say.
Yeah, it looked like there was a good lineup.
Yeah, atmosphere went extreme. The Mondial Top's going extreme. That's right.
That's Reeves, isn't it?
That's it, Reeves. Both Reeves machines went. Miami went, I think, the one that normally attends Nottingham. The Goose. Can't remember what the Miami's called, but it looks like a smaller Miami, like the Batfash smaller than the because there's no top sign on the top of it. Yeah. I think a Sizzler went. I'm not 100% sure.
Hi, Dave.
Sloffy's just said get Daz in. Yeah, Daz just said he's working, so he's not coming on today. But if you're willing to join, then just
Dave can join.
I would get you in.
But yeah, they did seem a good lineup at that fair. There was a lot of how do you say it? There's a mixture of rides. Hi, Ryan.
Hello, Ryan.
Did you have any absinthe?
Hi, boys. How are you? Yeah, all good. all good, Dave. Like that's it's going all good. Trying to keep up with everything. So
Yeah, I'm good, thanks, Dave. It's just plodding along
yeah.
slowly. Hi, Cobra Roll.
Craig, do you want to come on the live stream? I can.
Ryan, no, I want to live. That's brilliant. Strong stuff, Ryan.
Strong stuff, yeah, definitely.
Hope you're all right, Craig.
Yeah, Craig, if you want to come on,
Well.
I can. If you just message me and I can get you in. I'm more than happy to get you in.
But yeah, it's a shame that Hopkins is so early on in the year, really.
Yes, it normally happens by like the start of October till the second week. Second week, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's.
Dave's just asked $1 million question. So, lads, is Hull off or on?
Well, I have heard that Hull is actually cancelled by a like Hull Daily. I don't know if you've heard of the news people, but it's like Hull Daily Mail or something type of thing. I just can't remember the Just trying to have a look to see. Hull Daily Mail, yep, that's it. And it said confusion as Hull Fair organisers suggest it is not cancelled. So
yeah.
The Cobra Roll. Craig just put, I would rather scoop my eyes out with a spoon than go live ever again, but thanks for the offer. Okay, mate. Yeah, by hearing that, but then there's a lot of things that go on. They're saying, it's not cancelled, or they suggest it's not cancelled.
I think all the Showman's Guild want is just time, like what they're doing with Nottingham. Keep planning it until they get to that very point.
Ryan just put, then they had a meeting with the Showmans. Yeah, I know what you mean, Ryan. I think it's cancelled, but then there are some news articles out there that will just say, "Oh, it's not cancelled," but
I think it's off, but it's one of them,
It's one of those days, one of those people that just say and then.
Yeah, that's it, Dave.
Yeah.
It's same with most fairs, though.
Yeah.
Showman want a lot of fairs, but the council can't.
It's like the Salisbury Charter Fair. Apparently, I heard that they were putting a statue on the where the danger zone went. I think it is. I think they were going to put like a statue there or some sort of structure, so that just stops the showman, like more showmen from coming on, because you're just not. You're just stopping the showman from going on that place,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with what Dad said, to be fair. Hull is cancelled, no hope.
I mean, I really hope Salisbury isn't cancelled, because that's the last one I want to be cancelled, really. I mean, there's quite a few people that go, but during the day it's quite, yeah.
Did you see what, what do you call it? Did you see what happened with Lichfield the other day?
Lichfield was...
Yeah.
What happened in Lichfield?
They put some sort of ride there. They built it up just to save the charter still.
Oh, did they?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't.
It was something. I didn't see what. I'm sure it was a set of teacups, but I might be wrong. It might have been, something else. They did build something up there to save the charter.
Yeah, they built something up in Pinner. I think it was Pinner.
Yeah, they're looking. Yeah, they got an organ there, didn't they?
Sure. Organ? I think it was a little kiddies ride that they just put down, like a train ride. And then they just had that there, just to show that.
Yeah, I saw they was looking for an organ. I saw someone post it in one of the groups. They was looking for an organ. I don't know whether they managed to get one.
Well, it would be good if they did.
Yeah. What are you cooking, Ryan? Anything good? He's cooking his dinner.
I would, but just about to cook dinner. That sounds good.
Wonder what he's having. Absinthe stew.
Even Dave's put what you're having.
Yeah, better than tin breakfast, Dave. Tin breakfast.
Tin breakfast. I remember that. Yeah, yeah.
Which is your favourite big fair then, George? Out of like Hull,
Oh my goodness. Out of
Hull Goose, and Hoppins. Which is everyone's favourite? Let us know. Comments.
Yeah, let us know. My favourite, I mean, I know it's got to be Nottingham and Hull, but down the southwest they have a big one called Summer Court. Well, it's not called Summer Court; it's actually in Summer Court. That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah, it's a nice little. I think it's a village, but it's like a really big greenery, and they had like the Danger Zone. They had Superstar, which was lead dancers. So dancers, Superstar. They had dancers, Starflyer. Just trying to remember what they had. I think they had Roland's Dodgems, dancers, Oxygen, dancers, Super Bowl, Super Bowl.
Sounds big.
The Can. Andrew Holmes is Can now. It used to be AB Dancers, but he then sold it to Andrew Holmes, I think. So that went. I'm trying to remember any other. I think Roland's took their Miami there as well. Oh, the Tagada. Can't remember whose Tagada went, but I know it was a small tag, like not like the popular Tagadas. It's like more of the southwest ones. I think it was. Oh, I just can't remember, but I know a Tagada went. A Ghost Train. I think the Ghost Train went.
Sounds decent size, to be fair.
Yeah, it was a. Yeah, it was decent size, but then at the same time miserable weather. But people still came.
Yeah, that's good. When's the video being uploaded, Dave?
Yeah, when's the video being uploaded?
When's the next vlog?
Boom! There's your next vlog.
But yeah, don't get me wrong. I like Nottingham, but I just feel. See you later, Ryan. I just feel that not everyone. I just feel like, especially like on the waltzers at Hull. I don't know if you've ever noticed it. There just seems to be more of an atmosphere at Hull than what there is at Goose. And I genuinely think that is down to the amount of teenagers that go to Hull compared to Nottingham. Don't get me wrong, there's still a lot of teenagers, but if you compare like how many teenagers go to Hull, do you know what I mean? It's more, it's more older students that go to Nottingham, I feel. And there's a lot of teenagers, 14, 15, 16 that go to Hull. And I think that does create more of an atmosphere compared to like what Goose Fair's got. Don't get me wrong, the atmosphere at Goose is brilliant. But I just feel, especially on certain rides, there's more of an atmosphere at Hull.
Definitely. I mean, there's quite a few rides that have been, that the owners have changed around, because there's normally meant to be like, some showmen keep their rides, and some also have like ownership changes. So like the Mega Spin, I think that went last year, and basically instead of it being the case, because Ross Cake took it, I think it was not last year, the year before. Then after Ross sold it, Keys, is it Keys? I don't know how to say the name. But
one of them.
Keys. They then sold it over to because William, was it the Roberts family, then sold it over to. No, it's the Keys family that sold it over to the Roberts family. That's what happened. Yeah. And then I think they went last year. I was gonna go, but no, I didn't go with that last year because there was other things I looked at the time.
Yeah. It's fair enough. You got to pick and choose these days, haven't you? There's so many different events out there,
definitely. I mean, there's like too many events out there. Down the southwest, there was, I think the summer court one. I remember, I was gonna go at one point, 1 year, but I thought it was only on for 1 day.
Yeah.
So I tried again last year, and I actually managed to go, which is really good. You know, very long drive from where I lived at the time, but it's definitely a go-to. But if you live too far away from it, it literally is no point.
Yeah.
Unless
Yeah.
you're from the southwest, I go, but going from Hull, yeah. Unless you want
Yeah.
to go and see the rides that normally travel around the southwest and London
Mm.
areas.
I suppose it's one of them where if you want to do it in a day, there's no point, you know. But if you want to make a weekend of it, you could find other events that are on at the same time, you know, and kind of, you know, travel to all different ones in that weekend. That would make it more, you know, valuable. Well, not valuable, but do you know what I'm trying to say? It make it more.
Make it more, yeah. Because normally the superstar that goes, I think they normally travel around Corby area, so it's easy for you to go and see if you wanted to go down to Corby, which is probably like probably 50 mile, not maybe a bit more than that for you.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Well, I'd love to know what everyone's just favourite fair in general is in the chat.
Yeah.
It'd be an interesting one, whether it's big, small, whatever.
Big, small, medium.
There's a lot of great events out there that even like are small. Do you know? It's like good old £1 fairs. The atmosphere that you get on them. Do you know?
It's like
some.
Northampton. They have two, I think, two small ones. Northampton St. Crispin Fair. That's a small one, but it's quite big. It's quite a big event. But then last year, I remember seeing Sloppy's vlog, and even though the air raid went, not many people were there, and it looked like it was good weather too. So I'm a bit annoyed about that.
But yeah, I've just gone and guessed David's new video. Next video is 5 grounds I love.
Yeah, 5 grounds.
That'll be an interesting one, that.
Yeah. Mitcham Fun Fairs in August. I don't think that will happen, Tony.
No, I don't reckon it will.
Sorry to burst your bubble there. If it's a big event, it might not happen. If it's small and probably not that many things that go, then... I mean, earlier in the year, I went to a fair, which was Leeds. And then after Leeds, I went to one called... Is it in a place called Sheffield? The Sheffield one was good. It's small, but it had really good rides like the Jumper, the Super Trooper, the Freeway Super Bob.
Yeah, that's a nice machine, though.
What, the Super Bob?
Yeah, it could do with a little bit of work, but...
Yeah, definitely. But they would get there. Yeah, the Super Bob went... Freak Out. Can't remember whose Freak Out that went. It's the one that goes to Hull. Not Jamie Clark's either.
That's a good one, what Sloppy Vlogs has just said.
Yeah.
Hi, Alistair. Hope you're well.
I love Salisbury Charter. Yeah, it's local for me now, so... I mean, I really hope it does happen, because if it does, then it could be a 50% chance that the Ronins could go with their danger zone again, which would be a hooray. Alistair's in the chat.
Yeah. Wonder if he's been any more fishing. Done any more fishing?
Yeah, have you been fishing? So I remember you were saying Sunday you were gonna go and do some fishing.
Who's got the fake Theme Park Worldwide account then?
Yeah, who's got the... I don't even know if it's the real Theme Park Worldwide.
No, the logo's not quite the same, I don't think.
No.
Do you want me to ban him, or should I just leave him in?
Leave him in, but I don't know. If there's anything that gets said, then ban him, but ban him too soon.
Oh, you haven't done any fishing this week. Have you got any plans to go fishing, Alistair, anytime soon? That's brilliant, Daz.
That's just is it my
What is it, Dave? Charles Cole, Charles Cole, Charles Cole, Charles Cole,
Charles
Charles Cole.
Charles Cole.
No,
I wasn't
he's
gonna
got.
go. Yeah,
Go on.
sorry. Go on.
I was going to say Charles Cole's got some stunning rides.
Yeah,
He really has,
definitely.
and I really do like what Sloppy Vlogs does. To be fair, and supporting his local showman. Because don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with travelling far, but what he does, and he's decided to do that. Do you know what I mean? It's his own channel. Good on him.
Yeah, definitely.
He brings out great content for all the local ones and people that's far apart when he does travel. It's brilliant.
Yeah, it is really, really good. Yeah. I got to say though that I was gonna go to one of Charles Cole's fair. So I don't live too far away from where he went before the whole lockdown closure thing happened.
Yeah.
I think it was Forley Ground. I can't remember. I think it was. It's where Dave went before the whole fair shut down.
Yeah.
And I was gonna go, but then on the day that I was gonna go, they then said nope. That was the day after that Sluffy took it. Put his yeah. Dave went over to the fair, and I managed to not go because I was just so unlucky. But
Yeah, that's
I tried.
Yeah, that's what you can do. It's like what Dave's just said. I do like local fairs. I'm a busy man with 3 kids and a job, so my time is precious. There's nothing wrong with sticking to your local fairs. Do you know what I mean? And look at his channel. It's clearly it's not doing bad, is it?
No.
And like I said, good on you for sticking with your local ones. Like I said, there's nothing wrong with traveling or sticking local. It's your channel, it's your content, your area kind of thing.
Yeah. So a bit with me, I just go all over the place, and I don't really stick to my local ones half the time. I go to the ones that I actually know the people that let me go and see them, talk to them, see how they are, type of thing.
Yeah, but it's like what I said. There's nothing wrong with that either. It's what we all enjoy. What someone might not like traveling maybe. Like to stick to the local ones. But then
definitely.
It's just one of them. There's nothing wrong with whichever route you go down, or
I mean, last year I managed to go to Holland. Well, last year, year before, and the year before that too. So it's about 3. It would have been my 4th year going to Tilburg. But one of the major rides I go and see, if you want me to show you.
Yeah, can do.
It used to travel around the UK. Bob Wilson's. There you go.
Yeah, that's nice.
I think it used to be William Wilson's at the time, or Bob's, or both. I'm not sure.
Luke Smith will be able to say that.
Yeah, definitely. And the owner of it, he knows me very, very well at the moment. So I've been talking to him ever since 3 years ago, and I got to say he's doing a good job. I remember him saying that he's going to be redoing the lights on it, so it's all going to be in sync with each other.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
He was going to do something like that. So when one of the sections of the lights, the signal goes, then it's not gonna. The whole thing's not gonna jump about.
Yeah, I understand.
Because that's what happened last time. The whole pixels just kept moving about, and doing their own things sometimes, or just losing signals. It just freezes.
That's the only thing with using. If you don't get the right LEDs, that they do come out of sync.
Yeah, but he's doing a good job on it. I'm looking forward to seeing it again.
Just like the H&S and doing a good job.
H&S, I knew you were going to bring that up. Luke, you don't need to apologise. like if you like, you tried your best getting on,
Yeah, that's it.
and I appreciate you that. I appreciate you doing that.
I like Daz's thing. New vlog, my top 7 underpants I always wear.
I think
As long as you're not modelling them, Daz, it's fine.
yeah, definitely. Luke's back on again. Oh, he's got echo again though. It's the thing.
Hello?
Hi, Luke.
Luke. We can hear
Hi.
him, but I don't know if you can hear us.
I can hear you a little bit.
A little bit. Okay.
Try turning your volume up a bit, Luke.
Theme Park Worldwide said loving the stream. Thank you. If that's Sean
If it is
Cameron.
you,
If it is you,
I don't know if it will be, but
yeah. But if it is, I thank you.
Sloffish just asked you a question, George.
George, you ever thought about vlogging? Me and vlogging, me and cameras. I know I got a lot of cameras, and I wished I could show you all, but that'll be another stream for another time, I promise. Yeah, me and vlogging, maybe. I just at the moment with, and it's all time consuming too. It's so much for me. I would say yes, but at the same time, I'm always rushing between fair to fair. Like sometimes there are fairs like Summer Court, and then another fair could in the southwest could also be on. There's no time to vlog.
No, and that was a bit like me, because obviously last year I did Hull Fair on the 4th opening night,
Yeah.
and then I couldn't be home too late because I had to be up at 4 in the morning for Goose Fair model show the next day. So it was one of them, I couldn't be up.
Tony said hi, Luke. He's got a really bad echo again.
It's lagging a bit, isn't he?
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to the smells video that Daz is doing. Hi, Luke.
Yeah, that would be really good.
Yeah, be good.
I don't know what Dave is saying or what he's trying to say.
I think he's asking me. I think he's asking Luke if he's happy.
Luke, yes.
Have you ever been to the Hopkins then, George?
Me being to the Hoppings, yes, quite a few years. I think I missed 1 year there. Can't remember if that was because I know I went last year, but I can't remember if I went the year before.
Yeah.
Because I remember I caught up with too much and I forget that something's on. Yeah, no.
Yeah, it's one of them, isn't it? When you try to get to, because I know you try to get to a lot of events, don't you? It's just trying to remember which ones you want to go to.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, looking forward to the Smiles video though, Daz. Would be good.
Yeah, it'd be good.
Alistair said, good to see you on again. Yeah. I'm trying to keep up with the live streams and everything, if I can.
If you want to come on, Alistair, I'm sure you're more than welcome.
Yeah, you're more than welcome to. Just message me.
If you want to pop on for 10 minutes or whatever.
Yeah.
Craig's still in.
Still in the chat, yeah.
Oh man, what a day. I don't know if it's just me, but have you noticed that the days are going quicker at the minute?
Yeah, much quicker. It's just because of the lockdown that's happening. It's the time is just going too quick.
Yeah.
It goes even more quicker when you're at the fair there.
Yeah.
Like 1 minute you're on a ride and the next minute it's closing.
Yeah. I don't know if you're working there though.
Yeah. I remember.
I don't know, some fairs.
I was helping out at Lydney and I didn't really want the whole fair to end so soon, and yet it did. Like every time I went.
I don't know.
Yeah. I think Luke is
Dave,
Lynch's
when will the small fairs be back? It's a good question, Dave. I would like to say mid what do you call it? Mid-August, but
mid-August.
it's one of them. I'm gonna say that there's gonna be no fairs, and then if there's a fair, it's great. You know.
Yeah, it's good. It will be good to have the smaller fairs on first, I'd say. Slowly, gradually
Yeah.
ease it back up, you know. Bring
Yeah.
it back.
As I say, it's a tricky one. I wouldn't want any showman to feel like I wouldn't want them to, even if, say, for instance, you've got a showman that is struggling with money and they can open, but then they don't want to open. I'd hate for them to feel pressured, not by us, but just in general, because they need money. I'd hate to feel that they needed to open if they didn't want to.
Definitely, yeah. Trevor Morris just said, "Hello, boys. How are you tonight?"
Yeah, I'm good, thanks, Trevor. Hope you're well.
Yep. All good, man. Thanks for asking.
What's
keep up with these lives.
What's the atmosphere like at Hoppings then?
At the Hoppings.
Yeah.
Have you not been to it before?
No. I was hoping
wow.
to do it this. I was hoping to do it this year, but
the atmosphere there is really great. But last year, I'd say it was quite a few people were there, but it just lacked the whole atmosphere when I went. Like, to be honest, there was a good few people each area, but then there was times when there was nobody up the actual entrance at one end. When down further, because there's another entrance further down.
Yeah.
There were like quite a few people there. But I think it was more or less at the front of the fair, which is the other end. Yeah, it was alright. But definitely go to it, but just
yeah. As I say, I was hoping to.
Make sure if you want to get a really good video to go on the busy day, because then
Yeah.
Because when I went, it just kind of on and off. I think
I
because of the weather, everyone buggered off to the beaches.
Yeah, it's a shame. It's nice having good weather, but then if you get weather that's not too hot, but one of them, it's people struggle dealing with rides, in the heat. It's a tricky one, and it puts the showman in a bit of a weird situation, because if it's too hot, you risk losing people as well, But even if it's raining, you risk losing them. It's a tricky one to be in.
Definitely.
Alistair's asked if it's hot today. Just go outside, Alistair, and you'll tell if it's hot or not.
Definitely.
It's been quite warm near me from about lunchtime, to be fair.
Yeah.
It was a bit grey this morning, but it's brightened up now.
Bit grey and a bit, yeah. It will be like
dull.
that. The UK is a bit up and down lately.
Yeah.
Lately, I don't know how you say it. Lately. I say it differently to other people sometimes.
Daz has put lots of ladies out.
Lots of ladies out.
I think you'd be looking for that, Daz.
Yep, definitely. Hello, Craig.
Hello. Be gentle.
Be gentle. We will. Definitely. Like, I saw the live stream yesterday, man. Like,
move on.
Yeah, don't mention it, George. Yeah. How's your day been, Craig?
Better than yesterday.
Yeah.
No, it's okay.
Yeah.
Just don't let people get you down, man. That's why I
thought I'd hop in briefly and show a bit of support for you guys, because you're doing such a good job. So.
Thank you, Craig. Really appreciate it.
No problem.
But yeah, at least your day's been better today.
Yeah, and like you've both been saying, hopefully it'll get better for all of us soon. It looks like we might get something this year, so.
Yeah, I'm hoping something.
I think what Boris mentioned on Sunday has gave a little bit of light to small affairs again, but then we know what Hull happened. We got that We've got that, and then we got that again. So are we going to get that again? It's fingers crossed we won't. But
I still have my doubts on the big fairs, if I'm honest.
Yeah, I agree.
I'd love to see them both, but I still have. I think they might just be a little step too far. Perhaps smaller fairs. Perhaps the smaller fairs will get slightly bigger. I don't know. Right now, anything could be a bonus.
Yeah, that's it. And it's like what you said the other day. Like you could see us back in lockdown in July. We just don't know.
Well, that's it. You know, like I mean, the next couple of weeks are going to be very telling because you'll start to see the numbers from the slight loosening of lockdown. Hopefully, it follows the suit that it seems to be taking now. That it seems to be dropping away. Hello, Alistair. It seems to be dying away. Fingers crossed it carries on, and we can all get back to everything we love.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Everyone's just stuck indoors and everything's going on.
Yeah, I think. I mean, I've been watching the chat, and I think a few people make some really good points. Like, I mean, I think the first thing that we all have to be slightly wary of is even when the fairs reopen, it won't be like going back to them how it was before.
No.
It's going to be different. You know, Daz has mentioned in the chat about single riders and not being able to sit, say, with 3 or 4 of your mates on a waltzer. So I think it's going to take some getting used to. I think it would definitely take some getting used to. But like we've all said, it's better than having nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I just like I said earlier, I'd hate for the showman to be struggling that much that say, because it's like what I said before, some showmen won't want to risk going out this early. And I totally get that. If they don't want to put their families at risk, just like a lot of the public, it's like sending your kids back to school. Some people aren't up for doing that. And I totally get it, you know.
Well, yeah, it's I think what you've both said is very true. I think you don't want to see the showmen pressurised, and I'm sure they are under pressure because I'm sure a lot of them are struggling.
Yeah.
But I suppose the other thing a lot of the showmen have got to weigh up is if I do go out, is anybody going to come?
Yeah, that's
because
it. Yeah.
I know the likes of George, you, Macaulay, and myself, and a lot of others will go because we love the fairs and we're enthusiasts. But the general public might be a bit wary of it still. And
and the news articles will just keep coming saying, "Oh,
well, that's the thing.
They're just gonna."
There's a lot of scaremongering going on out there in the news and in the papers, and you know. The last thing any of us want to see is the showmen who have already had an appalling year financially go out there and lose even more money because they've gone out and gone to the trouble of setting up and nobody goes. So it's a real hard decision to make for them. It really is. I don't envy them at all.
No, because if you look at the staff, the wages have still got to be paid.
Well, it's everything. You know, it's staff,
whether you don't take money or not. Diesel as well.
Staff, diesel, ground rent, moving the stuff, everything. It's the whole deal, and it'll probably go up even more now because I'm sure they're going to have to invest in like hygiene stuff to get them through stuff. And so it's going to be a hard one for the showman to weigh up whether it's financially viable for them to go out or not. Some of them may well just take the view that it's better for them financially to write this season off and start fresh in 2021. I guess we'll see.
Yeah, that's it. It's just a waiting game. Not even the government knows exactly what's going to happen. So
no.
And also with the hot weather we're having at the moment, as Daz just said, hot weather for the next 2 weeks.
It draws a lot of people out.
Yeah, there's a lot of people out, but the problem is then is people would rather go to the beaches.
I think. Like I say, the other thing is when the fairs are allowed out, I think people will have a lot of options. Like you just said, George, they'll have the beaches, they'll have other places to go, and it's
there's a lot. Well,
it's whether they still want to enforce their own kind of, even if the social distancing is dropped down standard-wise and level-wise, it's whether people actually want to drop their own kind of social distancing.
Yeah, that's right. And as well, your next issue is there's a lot of places that are free to go to now, like your beaches and parks. And that's ideal for, say, you've got families that's had both members of staff furloughed, so they've been dropped to 80%. Some families will be struggling to, pay stuff and only get food in, so they're not going to have that money to go out, even if it was a £1 fare. They're not going. They're going to be struggling.
Yeah, that's a very valid point.
And that's where a day at the beach comes cheaper than what a potential fare is, especially when there's a family.
Well, that's it. A lot of people at the moment, because of this, being furloughed or being laid off, all their disposable cash that they would have normally gone to, say, a fair or somewhere like that, just doesn't exist at the moment.
No.
So,
and you don't know how long it could be, even when he's saying if you can't work from home, go to work, but then it's all to do with your company. It's not as easy as just going back,
No, it doesn't make any sense, because if you can work from home, then work from home. You can't just simply work from home and then go to work. How does that work?
To be honest, George, I can see that being a big thing that the government will try and push, that if you can work from home, you continue to work from home. I think we'll see that for a while. Of course, the other big problem you've got is why my main reasoning for why I don't think Hull will go ahead is, for Hull to go ahead now, a lot of people have got to lay down money, and they just don't have that money to lay down at the moment. Or more to the point, they don't have that money to lay down as a gamble on the gamble that people will do up. I think you're also going to find there's going to be a lot of councils around the country that are going to use this opportunity to just stop fares going out, because as we all know, there's a lot of councils that they just don't want the fares around. And this has played right into their hands. I think you'll find a lot of the problems at Hull will possibly be the showmen want to do it, the council don't.
No, and it's then trying to letting the showman prove to the council how well they could keep it intact, which it's a tricky decision. It's like what you say, it's tricky for that gamble to be made.
Well, that's it, because the council have also got to gamble with their fundings as well, which is also going to be down because their income's been affected by all this. So can they afford to provide medical care? Can they provide police care? Can they provide the grounds in any kind of say? There's so many variables that can stop this.
And that's the thing. If you think, would they rather, but it kind of is like that. Would they rather use that ground for, say, an outdoor market potentially? This is just an idea of where that would bring in money. Much earlier than what a 2-week fair would.
I think the councils will go for whatever is their biggest income for their littlest outlay. And unfortunately, I'm not sure that fares come under that bracket. Like, I mean, if I'm wrong, somebody in the chat, I'm sure will correct me, but I'd imagine their outlay for something the size of Goose Fair is fairly considerable. Plus, of course, the other thing is, have they got the staff to actually cover it? That's the thing. Like you said, Macaulay, they've furloughed so many people. They might literally just not have the staff to cover them.
Then it's all right furloughing them, but then say when you do need them, you can't just go, "Oh, I need you back in today." It don't work like that,
No,
it's not a case of going, "Oh yeah, I'm going to drop you for this amount of months," and then actually I need you back right now.
Well,
it's not fair.
That's one of the problems I know for a fact Alton Towers are going to have when they open, because they have all seasonal staff. They laid most of their seasonal staff off. Now they've all gone and got other jobs, and they're not going to drop those jobs to go back. So, they've got to replace all the staff. And as you know, if they replace staff, they've got to train them up. And it's exactly the same for fun fairs, they've got to train these people up.
Yeah. And it's like, some fairs you will see like people being picked up from say like there's a couple that we get round here, and the showman will go, "Oh yeah, well if you want a job, I'm willing to trust you." And say you'll be on like a bouncy castle, that doesn't necessarily take much training, or like a kids ride that's just start and stop and checking the restraints. It's not as much. But then if you look at a theme park where potentially you need people for catering, you need people for roller coasters, it's a lot more pressure that you've got to pay more for, if that makes sense.
Definitely.
Like, I mean, it's a horrible position for the showman to be in, because it's kind of like they're damned if they do, they're damned if they don't. You know, if they don't go out, they're not going to bring any money in, so they're going to struggle. If they do go out, they could potentially lose more money, which means they're going to struggle. It really is a terrible situation they found them in through no fault of their own as well. And that's the sad part about all this. They're in this position through no fault of their own. They've had very little support from the government on a financial basis, and now they could potentially find themselves in a position where they've got to make almost in some cases a make or break decision. And because everything's so fluid, who knows if it's the right decision to make. But
that's it. And I think them fairs that you get a lot of fairs, say, like, that have their brothers and sisters that travel with them. If you look at Tucker's, you've got George, then you've got his sister Zoe, then you've got the daughter that owns, like, the Brocco plate and stuff like that. There's potentially people there that say, for instance, I don't know if they're paying finance back or not, do you know what I mean? But say the showmen that aren't paying finance back compared to showmen that are, potentially that's a chance for them to, I don't want to say they've got more money, because it don't work like that, but potentially they've got that money, then a bit of leeway to allow to try stuff out, compared to if they had to pay finance, you wouldn't then have that money, if that makes sense.
Yeah, well, that's the problem a lot of the showmen have got. Like, I mean, these fairs, these rides that they buy aren't cheap, and a lot of them are brought on finance, and unfortunately the finance companies will still be knocking at their door, whether they've been out all summer or they go out again, because they want their money. It's an awkward one, it really is. I don't envy them. I think a lot of them might sit back and wait and see who the first people to go out are, and see how it goes, see how the land lies, and if it goes well, they might all come out. But I think if the first one goes out and it goes badly, I don't think we'll see any of them come out.
No, and that's the thing. It's all right using. I know this is going off a little bit off topic, but if you look at, it's all right us saying that we're going to use fun fairs as a trial, because most of them have the money, to lay out. But then if they do it wrong, that is going to knock fairs down completely.
Yeah, definitely.
So it's all right using them as the guinea pigs, but if they do it wrong, that's it.
Yeah, it won't take a lot for this to go crumbling down, I'm afraid. I think
that's the sad thing.
I think there's more potential for this to go wrong than it is to go right. And I don't want to sound pessimistic, but I think if you look at all the issues they've got to deal with and everything, I think there's so many things that need to go right for this to work. Whereas it only takes one or two things to go badly for the whole thing to go falling down again. And I don't know whether that's a risk that some of them will be willing to make. Quite rightfully too.
It depends how. I don't want to say how desperate they are, because if they're desperate, then potentially they're not going to have that money to open anyway. But then it's the facts. Then you've got the people that may have the money to lay out them things, and then like what you say, if people don't turn up, then they've still got to pay the ground rent. They've got so many things to pay that people don't realise.
Yeah,
and that it's just one of them. It's a tricky one.
I think the other thing is they've also got to rely on people providing them grounds, and if the councils aren't willing to meet them halfway and help them, which I think, I have the feeling that councils will try and make it as hard as possible for the fairs, because the reality is the councils don't want to have to deal with them.
No.
So I think you may find that the fairs are more than willing to go out, are ready to go out, and they might not just be able to find grounds to go out to.
And that's the sad thing about it.
Well, yeah, because they should be helping these guys. They should be working. The council should be working with them, because especially for the big fairs, like George has mentioned, Salisbury Charter, and Goose, Hull. These aren't just fairs. The amount of money these bring into the surrounding area with hotels, bars, restaurants, and that, you'd have thought the council would want that to try and boost the very people who have had to spend 4 or 5 months shut.
Yeah, but then I guess then the next thing that lays with the council is if you're having a big fair, a pub's going to get busier, a hotel's going to get busier. It's just that constant multiplying effect that they're constantly battling with.
Mm.
No, I think if you look in the chat, I think what Dave's just put in there is what happened. The councils are going to increase the rent to try and stop the showmen using council grounds.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, like I mean, it's a difficult one. I think it's a difficult one to say yes or no, because like we've all seen in the last month or so, this whole situation is so fluid and so it changes day by day that nobody really knows. It's like you said earlier, Macaulay, nobody knows in July or June if we're even going to be in any position to even talk about going out, because
That's true.
I guess you've got to. I think that's why they're kind of doing it little by little and not just going, we're coming out of lockdown. Because if you look at Germany, when they came out of lockdown, museums was open within 3 days and things like that, and they went straight back up. But have we seen them go back into lockdown at the minute?
I think we have to be really careful when we compare the situation in the UK with Germany and Holland and that, because Germany's jumped on it so much quicker that they had so fewer cases and it was dealt with and so much better. Same with Holland. Their theme parks have opened, I saw today, but that's because they had so many fewer cases, because the UK has been hit so hard, and because, not wishing to talk about politics of the government, but because there was such a delayed response to this, I think we find ourselves in a slightly worse position.
Yeah, I agree. But it's like I feel like they're taking the time as well, because I feel like if, let's say, they did turn around and we had another peak and said, right, we need to go back into lockdown, they would lose. Like, if you think that you've already had them people that aren't listening anyway, if they then said we're off back into a second lockdown, how many more people would not listen? You're going to start losing that trust.
Well,
that's what you can't have.
I think the first thing is, I think they have to take it carefully, because, you know, not wishing to get morbid or anything, but we've had like nearly 38,000 people die. And if they get this wrong, you could be talking another 10,000 people. And that's the bottom line of this. They've got to take it easy to make sure that this thing doesn't flare up again and we don't cause another thousands of more unnecessary deaths. So they've got to be careful with that. And in many respects, that's the most important thing. That's where they've got to be careful, because, you know, I think this virus has already shown it's not something we can mess about with.
No.
And as much as we all want to go to fairs, and I know everybody's desperate to, I know I am, I know you guys are, there's no point doing it in an environment where, you know, you're at a fair and you're terrified that you might catch a virus that could not just make you ill, but your relatives and everything else. It would, you know, it would defeat the object, kind of thing.
And it would make it much more difficult for us, like for me, to even meet the showmen and talk to them, because now once they open the fairs, I'm gonna have to wear a face mask. It might look stupid, but I have to do it, because otherwise I put them at risk. If I go into the pay box and go in like without one and be able to pay, there could be like a 50. I don't know what the percent it would be to at least get it. So I don't even want to talk about that bit, because you know,
that's the trouble, you know. It's not just the showman and his family, but it's you and your family, George. It's their extended family, and that's the trouble with this, and why it's got to be so careful. And I think what Dave has said in the chat, sadly, this is going to be the new normal. I think how things were before has gone for at least 12 months. This is going to be the new normal. Masks, stuff like that, sanitizing and stuff like that. It's desperate. It's not good.
No.
But it is the world we find ourselves in, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's it. And that word that you've just said there, unfortunately, is a key thing to it. You know,
it is.
No one wants it.
Yeah, nobody wants it, but unfortunately, we have no control over this. We are, in many respects, we're like sticks floating down a river. We've been taken with the current, and we can't stop what's going to happen and not going to happen. We've just got to do the best to stay afloat, for want of a better description.
Definitely.
It's a tricky one. If you think the only way that, it's like what they're saying, that they're not saying it's not impossible to get again, but they're saying it's, you know, unlikely. your only way that you potentially going to get rid of it to stop it from spreading is if, without finding a vaccine, is if everyone had it. And do you know what I mean?
But this is it. Like, I mean, I read somewhere the other day that there's a potential it could be like other coronaviruses where you're actually only immune to it for 6 to 8 months. This is the trouble. Nobody knows. They don't. This is such a new illness. Nobody knows what's going to happen with it.
And the thing is, it's constantly mutating. So the virus that was actually in China could be a totally different strand what we've got over here. So if China made a vaccine for theirs, it could be different.
Well, from what I've read is it's the same virus, but what it does is it carries a different viral load.
Yeah.
And they've done tests on this, and the virus, the COVID-19 in America, has a much lower viral load than the one that's hit Europe. Therefore, even though the numbers are astronomical and are horrendous, America hasn't been hit as hard as everybody thought it might be. Whereas in Europe, we've been absolutely hammered by it. But like you say, the problem is with a vaccine, first of all, we'd never know whether we're going to get one because you just don't. But the second problem is even if they find some form of vaccine, because it has been rushed through so quickly and hasn't had the 5 or 6 years testing that these vaccines normally are, nobody knows if it'll work.
You could end up that thing. I did something in science a while ago, and they made a drug, and it caused so many mutations to happen with people. You've then got a whole different situation with going back to money that it causes. You know,
that's exactly the point, Macaulay. You know, they could give you this vaccine that initially could stop you getting coronavirus, but a year, 2 years, 3 years down the line, nobody knows what that alleged cure might happen, you know, and that's the problem with it. It's I genuinely believe the only way we're really going to see the end of coronavirus is if it burns itself out, and unfortunately the only way that's going to happen is by people not coming in contact with each other.
And that's impossible in a world that we live in, you know, to say no contact at all.
No,
you can say social distancing, but at some point we need to come in contact, whether it's surgeries or anything, you know.
Yeah, human beings are social animals. You know, we are social animals. You cannot spend the next 2 or 3 years not coming in contact with family members, friends, groups of friends. It's just not reality. So then you come down to do you do survival of the fittest? Do you just say, well, okay, we'll take the chance? But if you do that, it could go through the roof again. There's so many variables. It's mind-boggling.
Yeah, and it's like, don't get me wrong. I don't want to say I'm liking seeing people at the beaches, but the ones that are following the rules, I don't blame them going out. Good on them for, you know, doing something that will keep the mind active. As long as they're sticking to the rules that's set by the experts, there's not an issue, you know. But then it's the people that go. It's like one other person from your household, as long as you're 2 meters apart. But then you go and see groups of friends going out and getting drunk.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's a big element if people use their common sense, take the right precautions with the sanitizing, like George said, with the mask, making sure things like that are done, the chances of getting it drop. I mean, the reality is over the next 12 months, 24 months, there's always going to be that element of risk that you can contract this. That's just going to be there. But by the same argument, there's also an element of risk that you could get run over crossing the road, but it doesn't stop you going out for a walk. So it's going to be, you'll do the same thing. You know, if you're walking down the street, you don't walk into moving traffic. Why not? Because you use your common sense.
And
so I think
that's what I mean. It's just going to come the new normal, if you like to say. It's as long as people use their common sense. It's like the whole situation before with the wash your hands. Who wasn't washing their hands before? Like, come on, do you know?
That's it. And like, I mean, to a degree, I think over the next year, I think people like yourself, Macaulay and George, I think you'll adapt. I think you guys will adapt to it a lot easier than the likes of myself, Slothy Vlogs, and that, because we're older. You kind of get set in your ways, and you struggle with new things, whereas you guys, because you're younger and you've seen so many changes in your lifetimes, because life moves so much faster for you guys.
Yeah.
I think you'll possibly, it's all right, I'm laughing because I just said Dave's last comment. You'll possibly adapt to this a lot easier than the likes of me or your parents or people of this generation.
Yeah,
you are, Dave, I'm sorry.
Sorry, I shouldn't laugh.
But it's like what you said, Craig. We're not going to know, and this is what I mean. I feel like this is where the social distancing will slowly creep out. As long as people are using the common sense, then we can start relaxing it a little bit.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, the government themselves are going to relax it, because when we drop to level 2 in June, if you actually look, the social distancing starts to relax as well.
Yeah.
So, like I said at the start, all we can really do is wait and see and hope for the best.
But it's like what I say. What he said on Sunday came across as more positive than what I was expecting.
What old Boris, you mean?
Hmm.
I think there's an element of he doesn't know.
Hmm.
You know, he keeps quoting his experts, but in reality, do they
don't
know?
either. No.
You know, does anybody know? Like, I mean, it is very much a trial and error thing.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, that's why they keep talking about a second peak. When you're talking about a second peak, it's almost like you're saying, well, okay, we'll let you all out gradually, and we'll see if there's a second peak. It's almost like we're like lab rats.
Yeah,
That is
and
true.
that's not it. I see a lot of people blaming the government for saying they're relaxing it, and we could risk a second peak. But if we don't relax it and we don't see if we're going to get a second peak, there's no chance of moving on anytime soon.
In many respects, the government can't win. You know, they can relax it, and they'll get criticised for relaxing it because they say they're relaxing it too soon. They can not relax it, and then they'll be criticised about damaging the financial and the business side of the country and putting us into a deeper recession. It's a no-win situation. It really is. You know.
No, but what annoys me is the people that sit there and go, "Oh yeah, I want lockdown to be ended," but then they're the ones that's going and meeting up with their friends. They're the one that's moaning as soon as any restrictions are taken away. Do you know? You just can't win, like what you say.
Unfortunately, and I can talk from experience from the last 24 hours, there's a lot of keyboard warriors out there who think they know everything, but they don't actually know anything. But they're quick to give their opinion with no facts behind them. And sometimes they should sit down and perhaps keep their mouths or their fingers still until they look into the facts of things, and then they can give an educated comment.
They need to give the head a wobble.
They
need to give the head a wobble.
Yeah, basically. Like, I mean, you can give your opinion, but everybody's opinion is valid because nobody knows. There's no fact. There's no set fact of what's going to happen here. So in many respects, everybody's opinion is valid because everybody's opinion has every possibility of happening.
As like what Alistair just said, family should be allowed to see family. They're stopping us from seeing our old, like grandparents.
I absolutely agree with him. You know, I really do. If your family has been locked down and other members of your family somewhere else have been locked down, I don't see an issue in jumping in the car and going and seeing them. Because if you've both been in lockdown, how can you infect each other?
No, the issue is, isn't it, if people have been going out working on the front line, and then that's where the common sense thing comes back in. You use your common sense and think, I've been working with people that's had it or got it, I'm not going to go and see them.
Yeah, like, I think the big thing that needs to happen rapidly is I think the antibody testing needs to be hurried out so people can find out if they've had it or they haven't had it. That will be a help.
It's like what I said to you, when you was live the other day. I said to you, I genuinely think I've had it.
You'll be surprised, Macaulay, the amount of people I've spoke to have said exactly the same thing. They've said a few months ago they had the flu, had tightness of breath and things like that.
As I say, when I went into hospital on Christmas Day, the exact words of the woman was, "It's not. I don't know what it is. It's something viral." She said, "But I can't physically diagnose it. If you think it wasn't over here majorly at that point, so it could well have been."
Well, I find it hard to believe that if this thing was out in China in October, I find it very hard to believe that it took it 5 months to get here.
Yeah,
I really do.
Yeah.
It may not have shot up like it did, but these viruses don't. They normally take a while to build up, and they pick up steam, and then they go off the edge of a cliff. But I just find it hard to believe that this thing wasn't here before January. I really do.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of them. That's the thing. That's the only thing. We don't know what's being reported and what's not.
Yeah.
And that's with anything, though. There's things that's kept quiet all the time. Look at MI5. Do you know what I mean? There's stuff constantly that's kept quiet, and some things do need to be kept quiet, but then some things don't.
I think we should all be wary of what we believe in the press, where this disease is concerned, because there's so many things reported that within a few days later are shown to not be true. There's a lot of scaremongering about this disease. That's for sure. I think it's just one of those things. I think we just have to be a little bit careful of everything we read. Yeah,
that's it. And you got to take everything with a pinch of salt, even if it is coming from the so-called experts. Because they don't know.
Yeah. Well, you just hit the nail on the head. They don't know. Nobody knows.
No, and it's like what I say. It's not their fault. It's a new virus. It would be mad if they knew exactly everything about it.
Well, I watched a program. It was on YouTube, and it was a doctor from New York. He dealt with a lot of the autopsies and the virology of this disease, and he was talking about it, and he says they have never in their history seen a virus that presents itself in so many different ways.
Yeah.
He says the majority of people are looking out for a temperature and a cough. He says, but this disease can present itself as just a rash on your arm that's there for a day. It can present itself as an upset stomach, where you think you've just ate something bad or you've got an upset stomach. He says, so far they've registered something like 83 different ways this disease can present itself.
That's the thing. It's quite scary, because your potential symptoms, say, of a bad stomach could be that.
Yeah, that's the problem. And that's the problem they've got with track and trace, because, how can you or I or George or anybody in the chat as normal people know the difference between I've got a stomach ache because I've ate something off, or I've ate something wrong, or just normal stomach ache, or I've got corona disease? It's like, how do you do that? You just can't.
You just can't. And most of the people, like patients now that are dying from it, they're just putting COVID on now, just as a label, just saying, because they don't know.
Yeah, that's a very good point, George, and it's true.
Hi, Jess.
You're having to rely on.
Hello, Jess.
You're having to rely on the information being put on certificates and things like that as being accurate. Has this person died of COVID, or does it just look like COVID, so they put it on there, and it could actually turn out not to be? And that's why the figures as well, you have to kind of take with a pinch of salt to a degree, because unless you're going to autopsy every person that passes away in a hospital, in care homes and at home to confirm what they have passed away from, they can't do it.
And then that brings in the whole situation with money again. You can't be expected to do it.
It's impossible. In the space of, how long have we been in lockdown now? 2 months? 2 and a bit months, is it?
I think this is the 9th week, I think.
9th week. In effectively 9 weeks, we've had 38,000 people die from this.
Yeah, it's scary.
Now, if you was going to autopsy every one of those people, can you imagine the backlog? when you bear in mind your average, and not wishing to bring this chat down because God, this isn't really what I'm guessing people want to hear, but your average autopsy can take up to 6 hours.
Yeah.
It's
So it's a hard one.
It's very hard, and it's very hard to predict either because it's unpredictable. You just don't know. Because I woke up. I think I woke up last. Well, no, I think I've seen it yesterday. I just can't remember. I woke up either this morning or yesterday. I've seen it. Someone on my friends list on Facebook, like this is in Dorset as well. They didn't have any deaths, and then all of a sudden, one just come through like a post from someone from Dorset, and now I'm like, oh, for God's sake, like it's so unpredictable.
That's the thing, and that goes back, George, to what I was saying about the reporting of things.
Yeah.
It's so up in the air at the moment. Like you say, 1 minute there's no cases, next minute suddenly a case appears, and it's like, well, what's accurate? And I think that's the problem. I really do think that's the problem with it. Plus, of course, it's created a level of paranoia as well, and I know this myself. Like, I mean, there's been a few times in this lockdown I found myself coughing, and the first thing you think is, how have I got it?
Yeah.
And it's creating a level of paranoia in people as well, I think. So
that's very true. I think Luke. I don't know whether Luke Smith's managed to join on a PC or anything because he's having like, he joined in the first time and the echo from him was quite a lot. And
yeah, you can get a really bad echo on mobiles with StreamYards.
I'll try and get him in again, but if it's echoing a lot, it's
well.
I don't know what to do.
If you get Luke in, I'm gonna drop off here then now, boys. But
okay.
It's been great speaking to you both, and keep up the good work because this is a really good stream, boys.
Will do.
Cheers, Craig.
And
Cheers,
I'll
Craig.
see you both and everybody soon. And just keep plugging ahead. We'll get there, boys.
We will.
Yeah, that's right.
All right. See you both. Ta-ra,
Bye.
See you again.
That was an interesting chat with Craig. It was good.
It was very interesting, but I don't know if I can get Luke in because it says device is not connected. So if it doesn't,
I think that. I was going to say, I think that means if you haven't got a camera or something plugged in.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't really know whether I'll be able to get him in. Sorry about that, Luke. And if I can try and get you in, it's one of those things that just casually happens. The echo. If the echo is too much, people start leaving because they don't want to hear an echo from another phone or something.
It's not your fault, Luke. Do you know?
No, it's not your fault, Luke. But I don't want to put myself in the bad position either, where people start saying, "Oh, I'm the bad guy here," and all that. Not letting people on. I'm not a bad guy. It's just not a bad person. And I like to try and get people in. But if there's stuff that happens audio-wise, it's better if I just let you watch,
Yeah.
Because then I know that I'm gonna be people are gonna stay and listen.
Yeah. It's like everyone's making good points and opinions, but it's like what all of us have just said to Craig. And what Craig said to us, no one knows. And it's that if this, if that, if that, if this that causes all this worry and bad news reports.
Yeah, it is true. There's loads of bad news reports going around. I mean, I remember there was a post, like there was these TikTok videos, I think challenges. I don't know whether you heard of it before. It was, I think it was a couple of weeks ago, a couple of months, can't remember now. But I remember it was like, oh, there's like a COVID challenge or something where people were licking toilet seats. And I was like, I'm just thinking to myself, what on earth was that all about? Why?
Yeah, well, you know what Dave put in the chat earlier about the grubby people?
Yeah.
There you go, that's them.
That's them, yeah. Those are the grubby people, Dave. The ones licking toilet seats. I mean, who
Can we get hashtag grubby in the chat, please?
Yeah, hashtag grubby.
But yeah, it's like what Sloppy Vlogs has just said. It's all guesswork, and that's all that it is. I don't want to be sat here, sat indoors. But if it's what's got to be done to potentially go out in a month or in a few weeks, without as much restrictions,
But there's also people
then I
out
will
there.
do it.
There's people out there. They're Macaulay hashtag grubby. They're all
Yeah.
doing it now.
Well,
There's people out there that won't do it, and those are the hashtag grubby people.
yeah, and they're the
Trevor
people.
said.
They're the people that are spoiling it for us.
Yes, very.
Like, don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with going out to your beaches as long as you're sticking to the rules. But then when you meet, when you're meeting up with your friends at the beach and drinking or whatever, no.
Dave just put Dave Newbiggins put hashtag cobbly.
Yeah. Sorry, Bobby.
That's okay, Dave. I'll let you.
But yeah, hashtag honesty. But yeah, as I say, it's all guesswork, and we can't do anything about it. We've just got to let the virus do its thing.
Yeah, let it do its thing. It fizzles out like it did over around my area, south eastern area. Like, it fizzled out for a little while, then it just came back just like that. I was like, oh, really?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Because I didn't really want another like report saying, but then that's the thing, people could just make fake reports and make it seem like
and that's where you get inconsistent reporting, and that's half of the reason why there's such differences in people's views, because they're being told one thing by a good newspaper report or even a bad thing by a newspaper report, but then they see another one that's a total different, saying a different thing, and that's where we're getting issues, and it just needs to stop.
Yeah, it's just
fair enough. Newspapers need to make their money, but there's making money from your headlines, and then there's not creating, and then there's not being stupid and causing more issues.
That's very true.
And
there is and also, do you remember that time when Donald Trump said, "Oh, let's inject ourselves with in America"? Use bleach
from China.
From China. Yes, I think that's a very stupid idea. What he's saying right there with the bleach thing, when he said it, of course.
No worries, Alistair. Enjoy Hollyoaks.
Okay, Alistair, enjoy the Hollyoaks. Let us know what it's like if we're still alive.
Yeah. Jess Moore, I think I'll be back at work soon.
Okay.
A lot of people could be. Do you know?
I think it's gonna be the schools, and for me at the moment, because my college is closed still, I think at the moment it's loads of schools reopening.
Well, I don't know if you saw that Cambridge University have gone, for the whole next school year, which starts in September.
Yeah.
To that whole school year, they're going on to virtual tutorings online.
Yeah, they're all doing that, I think, now.
So if they're saying that, though, for that year, and I get at university it is difficult to social distance because you're staying in dorms with people and things like that,
And what Flat Ride Madness just said, I wonder if a lot of rides will be sold after this, and I truly... It's beginning to be a struggle for the showman, yeah. I understand where you're coming at, Flat Rides Madness.
Yeah, and it's like, I hate for the fact that people have to sell their rides because they're struggling for money. It's like what Trevor Morris has just put Megaspins up for sale. It is, but then is that because he's struggling for money? I'd hate to say that he is, and I don't know. I don't speak to him. But if that is the case, I just wish there was a bit more help out there for people that are struggling.
The thing is, Macaulay, is it's also the other point of view of, if you think of it this way, I think one of the Rolands are casually selling the Danger Zone, but they're actually doing it as well as travelling. So they're just saying, this is for sale.
Yeah.
If anyone wants it, I'm around if you need it, you know, type of thing.
Yeah, that's the thing. We don't. This is what I mean. We don't know if Megaspin is up for sale because he's struggling for money, or if he's just put it up for sale.
He's got it up for sale, but he's still traveling with it until someone comes over and gives him the money, and they take it off of him, even if it's at a fair or not. You know.
Jason, just keep safe. Just be as safe as possible, and I'm sure you will. I'm sure you've got common sense. Just stay safe.
Yeah, Jason, stay safe, man. Especially if you're trying to, collecting potential COVID waste? Yeah, and you need to stay safe if you're doing that.
Make sure you're being supplied or got the right PPE.
Hazmat suits on.
Yeah, just stay safe. Yeah. Seems a bit strange as they only had it just over a year. That's right, Flat Ride Madness. Yeah. But some showman, maybe he just wanted a change, you know. Hi, Ryan. I hope your tea was good. Ryan.
How was that dinner of yours?
Let us know what you had.
Yeah.
Has the idea of showman setting up on a plot and land for a few weeks. Yeah, and that's the good thing what Jake has just mentioned about what Sloppy Vlogs mentioned. If you look at the likes of, I know there's more people out there, but look at Tucker's. I know you've probably seen like the videos that I do for them. Look how long they are at Cleethorpes for in the summer. It's a good 3 to 4 weeks. And I think that's what Dave is trying to get at, you know, like a mini amusement park. If you look at Stourport, that potentially could be open. Yeah. It's we're just going to have to wait and see, you know.
I don't want.
And I don't want to call anything because I don't want to say too much and get. Because if I start saying things, you know what people are like. They'll sit there and go, "Oh no, that don't work. That won't work. That won't work."
Yeah. And then they start like arguing. Yeah. They want the argument, then you know. That's right. What I'm trying to say, there, isn't it, Macaulay?
Yeah, that's right. I love what Ryan's just put. What takeaway are you going to order, Ryan?
Was that? Couldn't be asked to cook. Before I walked to clear my head, going to order a takeaway. Fair enough, buddy. Let us know what type of takeaway.
Are you a kebab sort of guy, Ryan, or pizza, or?
Pizza Hut, and you can't out the Hut.
Are you ordering? Are you going to be ordering a Chinese?
Chinese, yeah.
Like what Trevor Morris has just said. Trayland's open for 4 weeks and then move on. And that's what I mean. Potentially people like that, and like what Dave said, and Jake was agreeing with him, people like that could potentially have a chance maybe of opening.
That's true.
One wants a Chinese.
But then the thing is,
Ryan, don't do it, mate.
The thing is, Macaulay, is that there is times when if you do manage to open, like what happened to Charles Cole, Macaulay, so literally opened one day, and then the next day they got the announcement to say we have to all close.
Yeah, that's right.
So, because I didn't see anything on the page at one point when I woke up the next day when the fair was meant to be opening again. Of course, just before they open, they put, "Oh, we're having to close," and I was like, "Oh." I mean, of course, it's fair. It's a good job because you don't want anything happening on the fair that someone gets it and then they're screwed, you know. Otherwise, there's been news articles about it, and I don't think the showmen really want to be putting up with more than that. Having Chinese order, don't order the.
The thing is, though, Craig, you don't know if the duck is bat either.
Yeah, that's true. That could be the bat. Not going to order a bat suit this time. Okay, fair play, mate. And that's what I just said.
Yeah.
All the social distances measures depend on ride.
That's what I mean. You're going to have different measures for a ride in like a field to a street fair. This is what I mean. I don't reckon you'll see many street fairs, if any, this year, because how long you build up for just for that potential night, even 2 nights, is it worth it for everything that would have to be put in place? Is it valuable? No. Yeah, that's right, Dave.
Said. That must be annoying for the Tuckers because they must have just about opened at Wakefield, and after that, just had to close. That must have been quite
I think they was open. I don't know quite how long they was open. I think it was a few days, and then they got shut.
They got shut. Yeah. It's gonna happen like that. Like if they manage to open, the government's just gonna close it because they're not really meant to be open, but they do try their best.
Craig's just made a good point. Rule of thumb: if it comes hanging upside down, don't eat it.
Yeah.
No,
Flight red. Rides there. See the coronavirus, the whole lockdown. Flat ride madness. Agreed. Street fairs would be more difficult. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and
especially Chipping Sodbury Mop Fair. That's a good one, but it's very in that street. It's really narrow.
Yeah, but if it's like as well. It's like as well, if you look at Hull Fair and Goose Fair and big events like that, that's where you see they're busy like what street fairs are. They're very crammed together, and that's where you're going to be struggling. Whereas at least with a family fair, you potentially, if it's a big venue, you could spread out and potentially social distance more.
Definitely, yeah. It's just a shame though, really, because the amount of stuff that happens. Like even events, there's the festivals as well. The showmen meant to be going to the festivals, and that's the big money takers then.
Yeah, especially because a lot of them are paid events as well. So they pay you to go, and then you also keep what you take. So showmen don't potentially have ground rent to pay. All they have to pay is a diesel, build up, and staff. So they're taking in more than what they're having to give out compared to the fair.
There was meant to be the I can't remember what place it was called now, in London, well near London. Festival. It's the same with the Leeds Festival. I just can't remember. Reading Festival.
Yeah.
That was meant to be coming on, but I don't think if I look it up now. But no, it's the dates are still on there. That's not gonna happen.
No.
Wait, there. Yep. Never mind. They did release an announcement on the 12th of May saying it will no longer be taking place, so that's cancelled now.
Yeah.
It's a good job they done
that. There was one Cleethorpes gathering, and Tuckers takes some of his rides. It's like a clubland event. There you go, Ryan. You'll enjoy that. Clubland event. It's got all different types of music in and stuff.
Isn't that the place that Exciter went to?
I don't think that was there last year. It's usually only George's stuff that goes.
Oh, perhaps I'm talking about another place then, because there was an Exciter ride at one of the festivals. Not sure which one.
Yeah, I think last year it was his Waltz and Rocco playing. There weren't loads of rides there. There never is really like a music event. But anyway, so that was meant to be going on June. Sometime in June, because I was meant to be DJing on his Waltzer. And anyway, so I can remember, and then that's been moved to the 12th of September now. So they have moved it a bit, but then potentially it's going to get moved again,
Yeah, true. Yeah, I agree on what you're saying. And also, when the showmen postpone, that's the thing with Bournemouth Fair, they postponed it, but I'm not sure now whether they're actually still going to go ahead of it this year.
Yeah.
I haven't looked back at it to see whether there was going to be anything to do with the fair, but I don't think it will. And if it will, they will need to, to be honest,
it's a tricky one.
They would have to move the fair from another place in Bournemouth. They can't hire the same place.
Yeah, that's right. And it's a tricky one. It's going back to that situation where you put in a lot of things on hold, but then potentially not happening anytime soon anyway. So would you just be better off cancelling it?
Yeah.
But But then I
And
guess
I did hear somewhere where William Cole, I think they were stuck somewhere abroad or something before when they were just, when it was all happening at the time.
yeah. Well, I heard that the heir had gone abroad.
No, I don't think it has, because I remember last week I told you, I think it was last week when I did my first live, I told you that I seen like a photo somewhere on Facebook, on my Facebook, and it literally showing the picture of the air in the background built up. So I wouldn't have thought that's gone abroad. I think people just.
No, what I mean is, I heard that it was abroad. They had gone to go abroad for the fairs, but then obviously they had to come back because they were going into lockdown.
Perhaps they have, yeah. They might have been thinking or planning on going over to Tilburg this year again, perhaps.
Yeah, they go there most years, don't they?
Tilburg's in July, which would have been after next month. That would have been one of the big major fairs in Holland.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that's just not going to happen.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, it's a shame that these events are being cancelled, but
yeah, definitely.
It can't be helped.
No, it can't be helped at all. Where did all the viewers go? Everyone's gone. Tony McAuliffe just said subscribers to my YouTube, but my messages for hailed review. Don't know whether to view that, show it or not. I think everyone's pretty much gone off.
I don't know. It's still showing 12 my end.
Yeah, it's showing 12 for me too, but I'm not sure. If
still not a bad number.
No, it's still not bad.
But yeah, it's just one of them situations, it can't be helped, and
no, it can't be helped at all.
We've just got to take everything with a pinch of salt, and we'll slowly get through it. Fingers crossed.
Definitely, especially like with the whole thing, and also people are saying as well, conspiracy theories. I think that people are saying or thinking that perhaps pigeons, like the lockdown is to. It seems silly, really. There's people out there saying, "Oh, they're just stopping us from going out, so the pigeons can go back and recharge their batteries."
Yeah, I've seen that.
I don't think that's even if that was true, then, but no, that's not true at all.
No, that's the thing, isn't it? A lot of people make things up.
Make things up as they come and go.
It's like going back. That's half the reason why we've got so much misunderstanding.
And people out there like just doing stupid things too, like climbing up lampposts and all that, etc.
Yeah.
Like, I don't really see what in the world why they would do that for,
Yeah, lockdown sending people mad.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
But half of it is people that with the friends
the thing
where
is,
they shouldn't be.
How are they going to how are they gonna keep people from asking? Because people are gonna start asking for money more, aren't they, from the government? If you think about it, how are the government going to stop them from doing that?
And it's also, how are the government going to stop the needs for the high demand of money?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say.
It's all right that Rishi or whatever his name is coming out saying, "Oh yeah, I've found another million. I've found another whatever."
Right,
do you know?
I'm going now, guys. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Okay, Van. Hope to see you on the next one.
Yeah, enjoy your whiskey, Ryan, that you said you was having.
Hopefully next week I will definitely next week I'll definitely try and see if I can get someone else on, but if not, it'll just be the same old. Just chat about stuff. People could come on my live as well.
Yeah.
I'm not.
I don't know how.
Panel this time. It'll be like where you have to ask me to come on first.
Yeah.
Facebook or whatever.
How long are you thinking about doing this one for?
Probably another few more minutes, and then I'll probably come off. Literally.
Fair enough. Yeah. We've talked about everything that I haven't really got anything else to say this week as such. I made a garden punchy plastic chair and 2 bungee ropes.
I flung my brother.
I'd love to see a video of that, Trevor.
Yeah.
Oh,
There's
wow.
people making their own like rides, like or homemade rides. Like look at it this way or think of it this way. On Facebook, I seen, I think it was Slothy or someone. I can't remember who put it on there, but someone shared it, and it was of this ride that went round like that.
Yeah.
Like, went over, but it was like the seat didn't flip or anything. It just went over.
Yeah.
And it was rope. So it was like where you had to pull a rope to make it go over
Yeah.
to swing it, basically.
Yeah, is that some sort of swing thing? Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
I also saw that one of the cement mixer.
Oh yeah, in
That was
Germany.
good, that, yeah.
Or Holland, I'm not sure where. I will do a video if we ever try it again. Yeah, that would be,
put like a cat or something in there, Trevor.
Oh no, you can't put a cat in there. That's a bit cool. Or just put like a teddy bear, and then you could just show how it works either way.
But yeah, if you've got any questions, guys, put them in the chat.
Yeah,
We'll be sure to
put
answer them.
questions in there. We would love to answer them.
Yeah.
Because I'll probably give it another 5 minutes, and then I'll probably come off because Adam will be live at 7:30, so I don't really want to interrupt his live stream either. Fair's fair.
What Daz has just said, Mega Spin is for sale because it's a pain. Yeah.
Yeah.
To be fair, it's like I can remember, the G-Force that Tuckers have got, because that is the only one left in the country.
Yeah.
It's it's tricky to get parts for when they do go, not go wrong, but when it needs new stuff.
Because that's the ARM ones, isn't it? The ARM made. I'm not sure if it's ARM or another company. Not sure.
I'm not sure on the company, if I'm honest.
I can actually really quickly look that up now because I'm not good at looking up stuff. I think it's an ARM twin spin.
Yeah, Trevor, it's going well, thanks, buddy.
Yep, that's an ARM. It's an ARM. Both Sean's and Ross Keys. I thought they were ARM made because they made the same twister. They made a Cyclone ride, if you remember that one.
Yeah.
That's still traveling around with Billy Crow.
Yeah, that's a nice machine, that. Yeah, the modelling's going well, Trevor. Cheers. We're getting there slowly. I think we was doing a thing with Craig at some point. Obviously, we'll do it at some point. Whenever Craig's ready to, we'll do it.
You'll definitely do it. It's just that stuff that goes on and everything.
Yeah,
people.
I won't say any more about it.
No, I wouldn't say any more either because it's very that's toxic people for you on the internet.
But yeah, I've got a couple of projects on the go, Trevor. So, a couple of secret ones.
Oh yeah, I know one of them, but I'm not going to say out loud because it's not fair on you if I do that.
No, there's only a few people that know.
Yeah, including me.
There you go. You can have a preview.
Ah, yeah, the wheels. Have you only just got them made?
These are just Lego ones that I've ordered.
Oh.
I ordered 50 of them. I've got a few spares then. There you go. That maybe gives you an idea what it is.
Yeah. It would be good to see it though, once you get it up and running. That's if the model shows do go ahead. Because if they don't, then it's going to be a struggle for you as well to show them off.
Yeah. What model shows have you done, Trevor? Interested to know. You might have seen a couple of my bits around. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see which ones he's done.
Oh, you know,
show.
when I went to the Cambridge, it's a model ski jump. Ah, nice.
I think he's asking if it's a model ski jump that I'm doing. No, it's not, Trevor.
Oh, I see.
Even if you got it, Trevor, I won't be telling you. But no, it's not that.
No,
Yeah, what was you saying, George?
How? Like, I know you went to the Cambridge model show.
Yeah.
How come you went to Peterborough? Was it the same day, or was that a different day you went to?
Yeah, because where I am, Cambridge is down here,
Oh, yeah.
and then you've got Peterborough like here in the middle.
That was quite
So
easy.
I drove down to to Cambridge, stayed there. I left there at 5, and then on the way back, I went to Peterborough, left there at 8, and then got home for about 10:30, 11.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just thought it makes the journey more, you know, I may as well stop off. It's not a big issue, you know.
Yeah. It's a bit like what I do sometimes. I went to that's the fair I went to now. I was trying to remember which fair it was I went to stop off on the way back. Because I went to Boston. You know where Boston is, right?
Yeah.
I went from
Yeah, it's near
Boston
me, that.
to Corby, which is quite easy.
Yeah.
And I went from Corby then back to Bristol, where I used to.
Yeah.
Where I was from. Yeah, that was a nice little drive. That with my dad.
Yeah, I bet.
It was quite easy because getting from Boston to Corby, like the same day, I suppose. Because when I went to Boston, it was the last day, of course.
Yeah.
But I managed to make it. I was so happy to make it because it felt like I wasn't going to make it at one point, but I managed to make it for the daytime and then stay during the day and have some of the evening. Then I just left. That's when I went over to see the Stokes with their Mach 5 before they went off to.
It's a nice ride, though.
It is a nice ride. You could from the back of the ride, you could just hear it for miles.
It was rapid. I don't know if you saw my on-ride video of it last year. It was,
It's rapid, but that fair's not going to go ahead this year.
No.
I think. No.
I think it'll have already happened, wouldn't it?
It would have happened, yeah. Like last 2 weeks.
Yeah. All right, I see, Trevor. I was meant to be going to Churchtown, but we had some issues, so I couldn't make it, unfortunately.
Oh yeah, that one. I remember you saying that you were gonna go. I was gonna say hello and everything, but of course with things happening at the time, and I really hope coronavirus doesn't the lockdown, of course. Not saying the virus itself, but the lockdown. I really hope it doesn't cancel it.
Yeah, it wasn't so much that. It was because obviously it's in January, isn't it?
I'm not saying it wasn't that. It's just saying.
Yeah.
Just imagine if it stays on for another almost, I suppose, a year maybe. Then they don't really want loads of people in one little building. So, but hope for the best.
Yeah, I was meant to be going to that one, Trevor, this year, but we had a family bereavement, so couldn't make it, unfortunately. Yeah,
no, we couldn't make it. Well, I could make it, and I got some photos for can't remember who. I think it was for Connor. Connor put on his page. If you have a look on his channel, on his Facebook page, you should be able to see some photos I'd taken for him. Because he was meant to be going as well, but his car, I think, broke down or something, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah, at least you got some pictures for him.
That model show was really good.
Yeah, it's one of the biggest shows now.
It is. It's one of the biggest shows in the southwest, I'd say.
Yeah, well, I only went to Cambridge because I didn't go to Churchtown.
Churchtown one there.
Yeah.
I mean, the Leeds was meant to be having a model show, but I don't think they ever have one anymore.
No, the reason it went on this year was because obviously they had a new ground, didn't they?
Yeah.
And they struggled to get a venue close to, big enough and close to the actual venue for the show, for the fair, if that makes sense. So obviously, if you have if you have a fair, like say 10 minutes away from the show venue, it's a long trek and you won't get many people come in. Whereas if it's like next to it, you'll get a lot of the public come in.
That is true. Yeah. Because normally because where the model show was, there was the entrance, wasn't it, as well?
Yeah.
For the fair, and it was right outside. I'm thinking, well, might not be right outside, but it was.
Yeah, it was very close.
Very close. Yeah, I know what you mean. I think the model show was on. At one. Did I go when you went to the model show there for the? I think I did, but I was at the fair.
Yeah, I went.
That was 2 years ago. I think I remember. Was it 2 years ago? 3 years ago?
What last year? Yeah, it was 2018.
2018. Yeah, I remember that now. Yeah, I remember that because you messaged me saying, am I still around?
Yeah. You was in size Paybox, weren't you, when I did came and got some tickets? Yeah.
Yeah. So I remember you saying that you were going to do the model show. So
yeah, it is a nice model show, to be fair.
It was at the day of the model show when you
yeah.
Me. Yeah. That's right. Yeah, the model show, and then I obviously.
It is a nice show, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that model show it ended at night, just during the evening, didn't it? Late afternoon, evening.
Yeah. Actually, it wasn't 2018. It was last year, 2019.
Wait.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, because that was my first ever show. That.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I keep getting confused because obviously this year they didn't have one, so I was thinking, well, this year's 2019, and then I was like, no, that's not right.
No. This year's 2020. Last year's 2019.
Yeah.
It's stressful. I can see now with everything going on. It just needs to. It needs to
clear off.
Yeah, needs to clear off, end, and etc. You know.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I think I'll probably end it there now because.
Yeah, sounds good.
We got nothing else to talk about, and also you need to start doing what you need to do.
Not many questions in the chat, is there? So.
No, I think everyone's cleared off. So yeah, I'll end it there.
Yeah, no worries.
I hope everyone's enjoyed the stream. If anyone's watching, the 11 people that's watching, if you enjoyed it, let me know on my Facebook page, Fun Fairs in the UK and beyond. I'll give the link to my Facebook page now.
Yeah.
If you want to keep up to date with if there's any more happening.
Cheers, Trevor. Cheers, Dave.
Cheers, Dave. But yeah, just linked my Facebook page now for you guys if you want to like that and keep.
Yeah, go and like it. It's a good page.
Yeah, I do try to update on it, and sorry guys if there isn't anything going on. I lost track of everything now. I'm really meant to be trying to find one of my GoPros, but I've just been so lazy, and it's because nothing's going on. I really need to get my head around things and get that POV uploaded, so that way I've got nothing else to do.
Yeah.
That's the last thing I need to do.
You'll get there.
I'll get there. Anyway, guys, if you like that and follow it to see what's going on next, I'll post my next live stream. Oh, and also do go and like Funfair and Friends too, because we'll both post events and live streams. I think you're going to be having one Sunday.
Yeah, Sunday. Yeah.
Sunday, what time would you think?
Andy usually goes live about 7:30, doesn't he?
Yeah.
But it's fine. He's a theme park person. So I'll probably say between 8 and 9 on Sunday. I'm gonna get in touch with a couple of people, and I'll let you know all tomorrow. I think it'll be.
Yeah.
Yeah. be good to see you all in there.
Yeah, it would be good to see you there as well. Agreed.
Cheers.
Yeah. Anyway, hope you all enjoyed the live stream. I'm gonna end it there now, and I'll see you again. Maybe next week. I'll let you guys know. I'll keep you guys
sounds good.
updated on that Facebook page.
Time to
Anyway.
cue those credits.
Time to cue those credits. See you on the next one. Right.